was able to have full conversations in Mandarin. And I think just being able to do that gave me more confidence. I kind of proved to myself that I was able to kind of do anything that I really set my mind to.
理解一个人从他的成长环境开始。
大家好，欢迎来到1000种校园生活，我是今天的客串主持人佳佳。今天我们的嘉宾是柯达福，介绍一下你自己吧。
大家好，我是柯达福纽约大学的博士生。很高兴认识你们。
你的中文说的非常好，尤其是发音非常准确。
谢谢你。
音调4个音调发得非常准确。你能讲一讲你是如何开始学习中文的吗？
Why did I decide to learn Chinese? I think it's because when I was at university, there were a lot of Chinese students, and when I heard them speak, it just sounded really interesting to me, and I kind of wanted to understand what they were saying. And I think another factor was that at the time I was sort of trying to challenge myself or see kind of like what can I do, you know, can I learn this or that? And Chinese seemed like something really hard to learn. And then I found out that at my university they have a Chinese association, or the CSA, Chinese Student Association. And they were offering Mandarin courses for international students and also Dutch courses for Chinese students or any other non-Dutch students. And I just decided to take these courses. Yeah, really got super passionate about it. I loved writing the characters. I felt like any time I put in was I got out of it. Like, it was very rewarding for me to learn Chinese because it was so different than anything I'd done before.
So you said that you started this in university, but you actually spent 2 summers in China, in Shenzhen, in high school. So your interest with, you know, the Chinese language, the Chinese culture started even before then. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so actually it was not in high school, but I don't know if I told you this, but I studied business for 1 year. Before I switched to... Okay, maybe I never really explained this. After my high school, for some reason, I decided that I wanted to study business. But then after 1 year, when I did business for a year, I was like, well, you know, is this it? This is not really what I want to do. And then I switched to a different program. That was when I started neuroscience. But so the summers were the first year, like right after high school. That's when I went to China. And also the first year, the summer after doing business for a year. But yeah, so it's almost high school, but right after high school, basically.
How did you decide to go to China?
So I started these courses. I realized that there were a couple of people in my course that had been learning Chinese for quite a while, but their pronunciation wasn't really that good. And I realized, oh well, if I really want to learn Chinese, I should just go there. And there was also a book that I read. It's called Fluent in 3 Months, and it's about a guy that speaks like 5 or 10 different languages fluent, and he also really emphasized the importance of going to the country and like thinking in a language, hearing it all day. That's why I wanted to go to China. But then, I didn't really have a lot of money, so I tried to find ways that I would be able to go there. I was looking for options that were affordable to me. And then I found this company that sort of matches Chinese families with international, like au pairs kind of. Yeah, I decided to sign up for that, and then I got connected to a lovely family in Shenzhen. And a couple of weeks later or months later, I don't remember exactly, I was in Shenzhen. So my parents were kind of terrified because, you know, it was just someone I met on the internet.
Yeah. It can turn out way worse than it did.
But it all worked out well, luckily.
So these language courses, they're free?
They're not free, but they're very cheap. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're made for students. I think you paid like 100 euros for a semester or something like that. Like really not much money.
And this is in the university that you studied business?
Yeah, but I still stayed in the same university afterwards. It's just a different department, basically.
Wow. So what did you do for your Shenzhen host family during the 2 summers? And it's 2 summers, not just once.
Yeah, basically the first summer I liked it so much that the year after they texted me on WeChat. And then she was like, well, do you want to come back? You know, just directly through. I sort of maintained contact with that family, so that's why I did it for 2 summers. It was for 3 months. The family had 2 daughters, and I was sort of taking care of the oldest of them. She was 7 at the time. Yeah, every day I just took her to school. I talked with her. I picked her up from school. And
like a nanny?
Yeah, like a nanny, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. So, she got to practice her English, and at the same time also got to practice my Mandarin, because I was listening to Mandarin all day, right? And then I think that's really how I learned a lot of mannerisms. I just really learned how real Chinese people are speaking, which is exactly what I wanted. And then I also took some classes there. Usually what I did, like in the morning, I took her to school, then I sometimes went to my own classes, or I just went to 星巴课.
星巴课.
Yeah. And I went there because and I would just like practice my Chinese, so I'd write the characters. And I went to Starbucks because whenever I would sit there, always there would be a few people that said something like, "Oh, you're practicing Mandarin, right?" Like, and then they would start talking to me, which is exactly what I wanted, because then I had another conversation with someone. Yeah, I tried to expose myself to the language as much as possible.
Is this program, this company, is it still running?
I think so, but I don't even remember the name of the company. They had a center in Shenzhen. I think they are located in a couple of other cities like Shanghai. Most of my time was just interacting with the family that I was at, and I was really lucky to be in a really great family, I think. Yeah.
Did you live in that family?
Yeah. I lived there, so basically I just stayed at their place, and they gave me a bit of pocket money, so I was able to like buy some things, but yeah, so I didn't have to pay any rent,
Okay, so. Yeah. You're able to go to 星巴课.
Yeah.
What did you kind of take away from these experiences? How did it influence your studies, your life philosophy, political views, anything?
Yeah. It had a huge impact on... It was a very formative experience, like both summers. Because before that, I'd only really stayed in the Netherlands, right? That's where I'm from, that's where I grew up. And I went to France in the summers, but it's not that different from the Netherlands. Yeah, so when I got there, it was just so different than anything I had seen before. But for example, let me just give you an example, and then I can explain you how it changed me, I think. When I got there in the family, like, I saw how hard everyone was working. I saw how hard young daughter was working. Like, every day she went to school from, I don't know, 9 or 8 or something till 6 or something like that. And then she had a lot of homework in the evening. And then every night, the mom of the family, she had her daughter take like a math test, and she always timed how fast she did the calculations and also how many mistakes she made. And in the beginning, I, coming from Europe, where the education system is very different, like, we get a lot more time to play, and we don't really have that many tests all the time, right? It's just less competitive, I think. But in the beginning, coming from that background, I was like, oh, this is not really nice of her that she, makes her daughter work that hard. So I kind of felt bad for her. But then as I, stayed in the family, I was there more for a longer time, and I got to know also the mom. I talked to her and I asked her, like, yeah, why do you do this, right? Because it's not easy. She's working really hard. She doesn't have that much time to play. And then she said, well, if I don't do this, then she probably doesn't get the opportunities that I want her to get in life. So I'm doing this for her own good. And then I really understood that it was just a very different way of life, I think. So I just learned how the system works and how hard you have to work to get these opportunities, right? And I think that was a very humbling experience. I think it made me more open-minded in general.
So did you also talk with the daughters, kind of how they're feeling about their ways of life? Well,
she was very young, so I never really had that conversation with her. I'm curious how she's doing now.
That would be a very, very interesting thing to follow up on.
Yeah. But I do think she was happy. They were having a good life. The mom of the family, they really took care of them. I think she was happy. I think it's just, right? It's just a whole different... You do work very hard, right? From a young age.
Yeah. Do you think you influenced them as well, bringing your own experience into the family? Did you talk about how it's like in the Netherlands to them?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, I'm sure I talked about it, or I'm sure I talked about different norms and values and different ways of living. I'm not sure if she still, if I really made an impression. I don't know. I should maybe ask them at some point. But I do know that, we got along very well, and that's also why they asked me to come back another year.
Yeah.
And we did have a lot of fun. Like, at some point, we went on a business trip, so we were able to explore Guangzhou, for example, or Beijing. So we had some fun there.
After you came back from these experiences, did it make you work with a different attitude? Because you also mentioned this is after like a major switch, I guess, from business to neuroscience.
Yeah.
Did that influence your decision to go into neuroscience?
So at some point after the second summer, and right now my level is not what it used to be, but I used to be HSK 4 level, and at the end of the second summer I was able to have full conversations in Mandarin. And I think just being able to do that gave me more confidence. I kind of proved to myself that I was able to kind of do anything that I really set my mind to. And I think that gave me the confidence to pursue a major like neuroscience. At that time, that was considered something like difficult, right? You have to study a lot. Before, I wouldn't have had the confidence to think like, oh yeah, I can do that, you know? I can choose that major and make it work and and succeed, right?
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, well, I'm very happy that I did it. Sometimes I think about why I was so passionate and so dedicated to that at a point in time, but I'm really happy that I found that. And even though like at some point I would love to have conversations again and like make it more of a priority in my life, but it's just a little bit difficult when you're doing a PhD and have all these other things.
Definitely.
Yeah, but there's still a layer there. Like I can still understand the language very well. It's just when I was talking in Mandarin, I didn't have to think about it, you know. It's just like when you're speaking English, but now I have to think about, oh yeah, what's that word again?
Yeah. Do you still hear Chinese or like intentionally go to like Chinatown or something, anything like that?
At my department, there are a lot of Chinese PhD students, so there I hear it. I actually don't really go to Chinatown, but maybe we should go. We should go more often.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you try to speak with anyone?
Well, with you sometimes. But no, I don't really have other close Chinese friends.
谢谢大家观看，下期柯达福将分享他在荷兰读本科时的就读经历，敬请期待。不要忘了点赞、关注，一键三连。我们下期再见，拜拜。